Podcast.
And we're back here with KingWoes Court, episode 3 on the Dynamo Podcast Network exclusively. Good old Dynamo there doing his thing for the podcast network. Woohoo! And this is episode 3 anyway. Two great episodes to start off my tenure in DPN, which I was very happy with. And I hope everyone had a great Christmas and a great Happy New Year. And listen, those fucking lockdowns, that stuff, get through it. Just stay safe, everybody, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'll stop rambling on. We just played, we opened the show there with Snakes and, what's it called? Snakes and Fables by Reno Jack, who feature my guest today. He is a very, very multi-talented musician, in my opinion. One of my favorite vocalists, I think, in this country. Always has been, and he knows that. He's got so much to his vocal range and style. You never know what the man's going to come up with next. Currently, he's the skin he's wearing is Branock, but we also might know him as Dave Walsh. But for tonight, we're Branock. Branock, how's tricks, bro?
Good, man. Good. Good to see you. Good to be here. And delighted to be finally on KingWoes Court. It's an honor, bro.
Took a long time, but we got there.
It did, yeah. We've been knocking around here for a fucking minute now, brother. You know, it's been a long time coming.
So I remember you.
Chat about.
I remember you when you were a skinny little punk with a skinhead. I remember
that. I was, yeah. Punk and 2 diamond earrings. Yeah.
A lot of piss and vinegar as well, man.
That hasn't really dissipated too much.
Hey,
Yeah, that was back in we started that band. Entropy was the band we met. You were chosen.
that's right.
Yeah. I remember Jesus, we started that band. We were 16, 17, I think. Portlaoise.
Wow.
A few boys, Noel Johnson, Declan, Colin O'Gorman, Neil Boyle, and we were looking to make some different kind of noise. And I think obviously, which is your bag and your forte, you seen that weird noise. I meant, who are these boys? You know what I mean? So we got a couple of gigs with you, and we were, we started really getting out there. And it was since then, I suppose,
Yeah, there was a good relationship between the two bands, which was great. Like I always like doing that when I'm playing with bands. I like getting a good relationship with them,
Yeah, it's important. It definitely builds a scene in the community,
Yeah. So I just want to, like, as you know, and everyone knows, my bag is Irish metal and trying to make sure people know about Irish metal. But we have a lot of very, very multi-talented musicians in the metal community, in the Irish music community.
Yeah.
But of course, your background really did start off in metal, as we said with Entropy. But there's so many layers to you and your sound, and this is what I want to get to tonight. So, give me a little bit of background on your interest in music and the kind of music you like and what you've done and all that kind of stuff, and then we'll talk about We Know Jack and Black Tree, and then the main thing, which is Branock. So you start at the start from there.
Yeah, I'm sure. As I said, I've been gigging and jamming around a bit of a time now, I suppose. But it started with Entropy with some friends of mine from school. We discovered Pantera at 14 and thought the world had ended and began again. So we were like, we'll have to do that. And we bumped into Declan, the drummer, had known these boys across the road called Sublicium. You might know them yourselves. They're a Portlaoise band. These are the coolest thing we'd ever seen. These boys had a rehearsal space in their front room, and it was just rock and roll all the time. So we seen that, and we kind of got into our heads, hey, look, this is what I want to do this. I want to make this real. We had seen a lot of blast gigs and stuff, and I'm probably the people out there remember the blast gigs in Temple Bar back in the day. I mean, that to me was the birth of seeing Irish people and Irish music and metal that we love happening in real life in front of you on a Saturday morning. And I made friends for life in the pit, in the pub. It was magnificent. So we went from Entropy, we started getting out ourselves. Played obviously a few gigs ourselves. We played some good ones, some ones I'd rather not remember, some ones I can't remember. But we learned quickly. We learned young, and from that, I suppose I got a bit of a hunger for not only performance but sort of seeing how far we could push this metal genre, what we could do with it. Entropy was very, I mean, even for its own band, it was quite progressive. It was quite new. We were taking influence from old 80s thrash metal, the new wave of American heavy metal, Lamb of God, etc. And really wanted to shake it up and give it a bit of a an Irish twist, an Irish attitude, and a lyrical content I was messing around with then, which helped me to grow then as kind of a songwriter and someone who wanted to say something with a song,
Yeah.
And then that kind of went on for a while. Played after that kind of dissipated, as bands do. They, people get different influences, especially at that young age. Colin started playing with Nephridium, which were probably one of the best Irish death metal bands I've ever seen. Dominic Macken was a genius.
Class, Mark. Class, like.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And we, of course, we were kids again and seeing that kind of that style of death metal guitar playing. And he's a contemporary. He's a friend of yours. And you're like, what? Yeah. So that really kind of gave us a bit of a gusto to really want to see what was, what was to offer and what we could offer rather the scene. And then he started doing spent some time with Nephridium, and I was in a project with Carl Levy and Colin, which is Illuminati or something like that. It was very kind of Cult of Luna, Neurosis, Isis kind of thing, which opened me up, I think, to a whole vocal range, a whole kind of that roary. When you haven't got 3 minutes to get as much in, and you've got a lot of space to put in, I think that was a whole other challenge I really enjoyed doing. And I'm all about kind of seeing what I can do with the boys of mine,
Yeah.
And then there we kind of got to. I was on the hunt for something. I've been jumping around, bouncing from jam to jam, playing the acoustic, goofing around, and eventually got on board .ie and met the lads from We Know Jack. And that was essentially the first time I heard Ronan's guitar playing. I thought, I have to play with these lads. Like, I need to find these. And of course, they didn't get back to me, Big Boss. I emailed from 2 months. So that was, oh man, 2 months. I was hunting them, and eventually I was like, yo, like, I'm the vocalist. I am the vocalist you're looking for. And eventually got in. I'd already kind of, I already songs written for them. I came in, I was like, this Wood Pigs call this now. This is what I think we should do.
Mm.
And at the end of the rehearsal, I kind of told them, like, yeah, yo, so I'm in the band, yeah. And they were like, oh, yeah. And it's been with them boys ever since. I can be a bit of a personality, I suppose. And when I came in there first, I came in kind of like a tornado. It was everything has to be done. So, with them lads, they were very to really hone into that. What we could do with the vocals and what we could do with melodies. And Jay Corbett as a drummer is probably one of the most, I haven't seen anybody hit a kit like that since Bonham.
Yeah.
So having all that together and a variety of influences, they weren't really metalhead for the most part, as much so as I was. They were into kind of heavy rock and some heavy metal and stuff, but I was kind of coming from the kind of garage and nails aspect of things, and they were from a different. So putting them two worlds together, which I really enjoyed, is putting that together. And not really saying we're going to write this kind of metal. We're not going to be a death metal band, a grind band, a black metal band. We're going to be a band, and whatever comes, what may, will come what may. And that's kind of the ethos, I suppose, I've brought into everything I've done for me current career, I suppose. And We Know Jack, we played a few absolute corporate gigs. We got to I think our third gig, we got the Bloodstock Metal the Masters final. And we were playing against Warpath. So I was like, Jesus Christ, all right, we're doing something right, So we went, we're gung-ho from then and gave it well. The lads sadly had to move to Canada. They were doing a 2-year visa. It was, very kind of booked in. So we went their separate ways. We've still been in the studio. It's still there, so it's getting them in the room. And then thankfully found the lads from Black Tree and jammed it out and tried another avenue, another challenge. And from there, we played a lot with Black Tree. That was kind of more sort of sloomy, dodgy kind of stuff. Sloomy? Doomy sludge, rather.
You're welcome.
Sloomy, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was, again, that was with Joey Smith and Dominic Smith, another absolute cracking guitar player. Adam Keller, another, that man just makes atmospheres happen with guitars. And
yeah.
Again, seeing what we could do with that kind of genre. They were all kind of different genres coming in, and see what we could do with that. And between that time, I suppose, I was kind of working on my own sort of bits and bobs and songs and stuff, and it was always in the background of wanting to, even get good enough to try and sort of write songs. I was always quite, self-conscious when you're playing with these kind of players. It's easy to be self-conscious when you're surrounded with talent,
Absolutely. I mean, I'm the same. I always, I don't know why I do it, but I always surround myself with the top musicians, and then I have to, ascend to that level. It's not fucking easy, and it doesn't get any easier as you get older as well.
No. But it's a challenge, and that's always what it is. It's challenging yourself to sort of, see what else you can do. But I love it, And in there, I suppose, from We Know Jack days, I had met, I've got a very good friend of mine now, Lee, who has helped me come on leaps and bounds with my own stuff now at the moment as branock. But then we had done I don't know if probably Townies and Blackguards was a track I done on Agriculture's album. And Agriculture, probably, between ourselves and We Know Jack, I think we were a sort of a breath of fresh air in a metal scene. We gravitated towards each other and have remained sort of of similar mindsets earlier on. He's another metalhead gone a different direction. He's working with Tap now at the moment, so you should definitely check that out. But he's sort of between that and Black Tree, and then kind of coming to where I am now. It's been a bad journey, but I've learned so much on the way, and I've been surrounded by some absolute amazing bandmates and mates, thankfully, yourself included.
Yeah. I was always fascinated by your journey. I always have been, as you know, and what really attracted me to We Know Jack was the mix of, it's almost like Rollins band with Mike Patton on vocals, like, you know. And that to me is
nice.
That to me is a really nice thing. You know.
Yeah.
I would have always liked
Patton,
Patton is I mean, absolutely. And then Black Tree, I don't think got the amount of traction they should have got.
Yeah. I think we played a couple of shows, and we'd been in the studio for a long time, and we've been kind of jamming out some stuff and kind of figuring out. I think again, you know, because we started a band, you know, they were nearly an indie band called Completely Different Animals, and then I joined, and I heard that tone, that really deep sludgy tone. I'm like, hold on, can we just? I'm gonna run my vocals along that line as opposed to the melody line, and we'll sort of go with that. And it got, you know, someone called this a sexy version of Corrosion of Conformity, which I thought was awesome. Oren from Overdrive called us like a sexy version of Corrosion of Conformity. So I was like, okay, I'm having that. Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, it just between kind of like we had a bassist there for a while, Lawrence, who's gone home to America. He's living in California, so. We'd made EP. The EPs still have it kind of in the catalogs, as it were, but we made the EP, and he said he was heading home, and I kind of, you know, I've been writing songs. I thought maybe this is sort of, I'll try something different now, you know. But for the time with Black Tree, I mean, it was some of the best times of your life, you know. That was a band of friends, you know. We all kind of got together and jammed, and then it became something that was going to kind of grow. We played some cracking gigs in Limerick with the lads from Zephyr and New Age and so stuff. The Limerick scene was cracking. We enjoyed every minute of it down there, and them boys are hospitable.
They love it.
Keep up to 6 in the morning drinking, but they're hospitable.
Yeah, they love it down there. They really do.
They do. The scene is cracking down there.
So, so there's nothing happening with Black Tree now. Is that done, or?
Yeah, well, it sort of, as I said, we sort of went our separate ways in the sense that Lawrence was heading home. The lads are still jamming, but I kind of, you know, we'd done the EP, and myself personally, I thought it was like, you know, I've said everything I wanted to say with this kind of sound, you know, and we ended up on our separate ways, and they're still, you know, still absolute best friends of mine. Like, I love them bits, and I love the fact that they were so open with that. When I sort of said, look, guys, you know, I kind of want to move on, and they were like, yeah, cool, man, okay, you know, best luck with everything, and I hope everything works out well, and just send me on your stuff. Which is so professional and so, you know, caring, I think, to want to see a person you're making music with and creating with do well and create and want to do more, you know.
Absolutely. So,
yeah, so we Black Tree. I wouldn't say never say never when it comes to music and stuff. I'm you know, I'll always get into a studio with somebody. I'll always jam. You know, I'm never done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. It's onwards and upwards and kind of continue on, but it's, you know, my heart and soul is always where it is, you know, and that's low down and dirty. So
you have a black heart, all right.
Always dark.
Damn right. Listen, would you think any kind of, you wouldn't say, as you said, never say never, but like, I mean, if an interesting metal project came up again, would you jump at it? Yeah.
I mean. Not that I was only playing the Slayer on the guitar earlier on. The rhythm of the guitar and the tone of it, it gets me soul, you know. So I could never say I'll never play another metal band again. It's impossible. It's an impossibility. You know what I mean? It's my first love. It's like you might go and discover every other thing that's amazing, but you know, realize the reason you got into stuff and the reason. I'll give you a funny story, right? I got my electric guitar. I got it gifted off a good friend of mine. From a past brother of mine, Andrew, may he rest in peace. And I got the guitar, and I couldn't figure out the tone through the guitars. The only way I could figure out the tone I wanted was to go full gain, get it as heavy as possible, and then I could figure out, oh, that's what it is. Because my brain's so tuned to heaviness, you know what I mean, and to that heavy thing. So yeah, it's always going to be there. It's, you know, and to answer your question, yeah, I definitely, if it was the right project and I felt like I'd add something to it and sort of say something I haven't said before, yeah, definitely. You know, I would be open to the idea, definitely, yeah.
I want to throw an invite out to you and another good friend of mine, Tony Carberry. I'd like the three of us.
Tony, well.
I'd like the three of us to work on something down the line, somewhere.
That sounds interesting as fuck, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting.
Now, Tony, where you are, I'm in.
Yeah. It's up to you, Tone, if you want to join us.
That'll be an absolute pleasure. I've known Tony since the ASEC days.
Yeah.
I think we played one of our first Bloodstock together. I think that Bloodstock Metal to the Masses. We had some fucking crack in them. They were so much fun.
He's another amazing musician, frontman,
He really
and
very.
yeah. Oh, look, that's what I love people that aren't afraid to go out of a comfort zone. They're the kind of people that interest me and that I'll keep going back to.
Yeah.
And
Well, with Blue, you know, that kind of thing was when people heard that first, like, you know, a what band? And then we'd seen what you were doing with Sacred Blue, and it was like, of course, it made complete sense. And again, another reason why I have so much respect for you as a musician as well is that kind of, let me just try this for a second, you know. And you need to do it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, to be honest with you, Dave, if I didn't have the Sacred Blues band, I would have went fucking mental. Because initially, when 2012 broke up first, well, when we had the hiatus type thing, I still had the Sacred Blues band, and I was still going with them, and we were, and I mean, that's a fun band. That is we're just jamming.
You need it for the brain.
Yeah, and it's so different. Like, it's the total opposite of Two Tails, and there's no I'm not doing any writing in that band. I'm just playing and singing, and I'm doing more and more singing now. Because Mel, the singer, she's a fantastic singer. Once you realised that our voices click together really well, and she was like, "Yeah, let's do more and more." So, like that, like, you know, and I will try anything. Like you said, you know, if I think my voice will lend something to anything, and someone wants me to do it, I'll do it, no problem. You know,
that's it. I'm the exact same. I mean, I think. Because as vocalist, I think, you know, I was lucky enough as a vocalist. My dad had, you know, Billy Bragg and Tracy Chapman and the Pogues and you know, all of that just in the car and Tin Lizzy just in the car and the ether around, and you're singing away that in the car. And I know the words to every Bleeding Oasis song. I'm not a big Oasis fan, but they're just from being in the car driving me. You know what I mean? So them kind of melodies and that kind of input from, or I suppose input from the outside into your brain. If vocal is something you gravitate towards, you don't have to learn something new. You can just sing away. If you've got a tone or an idea for a melody and you can kind of sing it away, you can mimic. You know, you can sing Tracy Chapman, you can sing and Billy Bragg. You know, when it comes to that kind of thing, you have to have that open ear, I suppose, to give you a bit more of an open mind. You know, and that, I think, gives itself. You know, I found I became a better singer as I sang more with the guitar at home. Because I was I was bored, so I'm singing Christy Moore covers and David Dempsey covers. But then my voice got more strength and more timbre because I'm mimicking Luke Kelly as opposed to Phil Anselmo. So there's, you know, you'll once there's a cross pollination there, they will both lend credence to the other. You know, in my opinion. But,
no, absolutely, you're dead right. Because for years, like I like to think I've a good vocal range, which I think I do. People have said it, so I'm not just blowing smoke at my own arse, like, you know. But anyway, like people just say to me, "Oh, you sound like Kirk Winston," whatever. I never intended to do that, and maybe early on in 2012's career, I sounded like him. But more people now are saying I sound like more like Tom Arroyo when I do me heavy thing or whatever. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, fair enough. Lucky I'm in a Slayer cover band, so you know.
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
So it's just it's again, like you say, it's getting the right balance. And I always like to, nowadays with my own stuff with Two Tails of Woe, I rather, I always say to the lads, you can write the heaviest riff if you fucking want. Once I can sing to it, and I don't have to just go down the path of heavy vocals, you know, because I think it's more impactful if you've got a really, really heavy song and you've got a singer that can do 2 or 3 different styles of singing, like, you know what I mean?
100%. If that doesn't have that, and I think you'll find with the likes of, say, like the Neurosis, Cult of Luna, you know, that kind of sort of post-metal, whatever it is.
Post-metal, I think they call it,
yeah. What I loved in that is that you've got this hum and drive of heaviness and tone, but underneath that there's these hums and like echoes of melody and tone that runs really through. And I think that juxtaposition of the harsh and heavy with that light and vocal. I think once that's melded together properly, there's no sound. Like heavy music with some good clean vocals is superb. If it's done badly, it can fuck off. But any music done badly can fuck off.
Yeah. You're right.
But you know, and you guys marked that very well. And to be honest, I remember the first time I seen you guys walking up with Chosen, I thought this is going to be I thought you were going to be a real heavy vocalist, and I was blown away. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, which is, again, that's what you want to have. You want people guessing, keep them guessing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what I like is I can now and again I can throw out a heavy vocal here and there, and then people go, oh yeah, so we can do that as well. I've never claimed to be the strongest heavy vocalist in the world, but you know, when time comes to do it, I can do it in my own little way, you know.
Yeah. But that's it. The case of sometimes I think it's having the stones or the wherewithal to go, let me try this for a second. You know, and sometimes in rehearsals, that's kind of difficult to do when the easiest thing to do is just with the riff and it's going to sound badass. But so is every person that's played that 2-3-2-3 heavy on the E string with a group vocal. It's going to sound badass.
Yeah.
But if you can go, well, let me see what I can do with this. If I can come at it from another angle. What about the upbeat? Or, you know, that's where you're going to find the gold. You know, that you can go with the grain for as much as you want, but you know, if you start trying to figure out other things with it and come up with different angles, that's where you get the gold. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me this, Dave. How are you coping with the whole lockdown and not being able to play music in anywhere except at home? How are you coping?
Yeah. It's I suppose with the new branock material, it's been a lot of writing time. It's been a downtime for writing, so I suppose I haven't missed, you know, the full whack of kind of, you know, the performance and stuff. I miss it as you know, as an individual, as a musician who likes to play live. But I suppose for what I'm doing now, you know, I wasn't that well known enough to as the new project to have been gigging. Now, the fact that I haven't been able to play music, I've been trying to go busking in town. You might see me out in town busking away, so have a look. And so there's been that, but that's even knocked down a bit as well. So, I mean, it's gone on so long now where you've nearly forgotten how much you missed it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's I know myself for performing, you know, that's a mental workout, you know. That's something you can, that brings you to another place, another space and time, and you can, you know, I miss that loss of self in music a lot, you know. And you can get it at home, but it's not the same. That reaction with the crowd and stuff like that, it's, you know, there is no drug going that'll get the rush of hearing a crowd roar. There's nothing. So I miss that dearly, and I'll take 2 vaccines in the face, and if we want to stage as soon as I can, you know. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I'm the exact same.
How have you been finding it?
Yeah, it's quite difficult for me, to be honest with you, because like, I mean, even with the Sacred Blues band, we used to jam in my kitchen, in this kitchen actually, and then we used to jam in Mel's kitchen. But sure, now we can't even jam because some people are quite sensitive to the whole COVID thing, and that's understandable. That's fair enough, you know. So, and in terms of Two Tails, half the band lives up north, so we're essentially screwed in that sense, you know. So
absolutely,
yeah. So like I mean, it's gotten to the point where, I don't know whether you heard last week's show, where we're going to be releasing the second album that never was. So we're finishing that, but we haven't been writing any new music, so we're releasing the album that we had recorded, but we could never release.
Yeah.
So we're just getting finishing touches onto that this year, and that would have been our second album. We're just gonna fucking throw it out there for people. So like, here's people making new music, and we're bringing out old music. You know what I mean?
No, it was. You know, it's that kind of thing where, you know, I think people are hungry now to just hear and just digest as much, you know, music as I can. And, you know, if you're putting on things like Spotify and Deezer and stuff, I mean, it's become so egalitarian now with music. You can just release it and go, there you go, world, and see what happens with it, you know. Yeah. And that ability to just go, it's gonna, you know, cost us not as a band. We've got the material. Let's just give it to the world. And, you know, I'll definitely be giving it a spin, you know, and a lot of people I know out there in the internet world will be giving it a spin today. So to have that kind of ability to get that out there, and you know, it's not what you want to be doing, but it's something, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, it's it's that aspect. I know this is your podcast, and I'm sorry, but I'm just
bro talking, brother.
That album was very special to us at the time when we recorded it, and and Dan was only saying to me that he thinks the lyrics are more poignant now, rather more so than they were when I wrote them originally, because it actually deals a lot with stuff that's happening now. It's almost like I was like Nostradamus or something. I don't know, but so he reckons it's the perfect time to release it now. And I don't know if you remember, Lara was a bit estranged from the band for a few years, and yeah. Like, so we're now all kind of in a really great place where, as like he's on that album, and Kelvin, our drummer,
brilliant,
was drum, and Dave. So we're all happy to finish it, and you know, so like, and that's why it's a big thing for us, because it's a nice way to close.
Even that in itself is there's a cathartic. There's cathartic. Oh, whatever it is. It's cathartic. To be able to kind of get that out and release that music, you know, because it meant something to 4 people and 4 or 5 people, and now, you know, it still means something. I still go back and listen to Wino Jack's first EPs and the live versions and stuff like that. And there's a time and a memory of friends and that comes with it, because you made it at a certain time. You're able to release them that to the world now and hear it through different ears, I suppose, even, you know.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, like, I have a couple of backing vocals to do, and my singing vocal, I think, is even stronger than it was then. I'm like, am I gonna have to redo everything, or just the bits I know I have to do? You know, you know yourself as a vocalist. You're never fully happy, you know.
No, it's difficult. And even I know when I'm recording with Lee, they change the microphones over a space of, like, you done that 6 months ago. There's a new microphone in here now, and it's a massive change. And with vocals, you know, when you're putting it in, the change, it might be that much, but it sounds, and you can hear it, and it'll drive you mad, you know.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you'll never be fully happy. So it's a case of going, right, where am I okay with being, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm the exact same myself.
So tell me how you got to be where you are with Branock. Because before you go on, I just want to say it's a very, very cool departure from what you've done before, and I really dig the songs that I've heard so far, you know. And I was thinking, it's the this man can't fucking do, you know.
Yeah, no, it's been a journey. As I said, it's, you know, I was playing a lot with Black Tree, and you know, Black Tree definitely saved my life when Wino Jack had kind of went its separate ways. I just, you know, if there's no music there, you can, you know, no music, no life. So, and that was kind of, we've been playing a lot with Black Tree, and we've been playing a lot of the same stuff with Black Tree, and coming over kind of, you know, I wouldn't call them tropes, but like different ideas for songs were coming, and I kind of felt myself as a vocalist and as a songwriter, as well as a lyricist. I kind of did it all, you know. I kind of, you know, I all the kind of, I've written about every content matter you can think about in kind of metal or heavy music. I've at one point I tried it or wrote something about it. So I kind of felt it was, I sort of said all I could say, really. Or for that time, I didn't throw me back on metal or what I looked at. I just thought, I think I can try something different. And I was living with Leo Riley at the time, and I've been goofing around on some songs and with the acoustic guitar, and I started taking them seriously. I was like, hey, look, you know, I can actually write a song here. You know, it might be it's with the acoustic guitar, but you know, there's a chorus in the verse, and there's a bit of melody to it. I've got something here. So let me just keep on plugging away at this, and let me see what I can come of it. And so I just sat in the room and played the guitar constantly. Tried to learn as much as I can, learn as many songs as I could. And from learning more, I added to, you know, skills that I picked up previously through, you know, playing via either, you know, playing a bit of drums or whatever. So having those ideas kind of come to a culmination in kind of an acoustic set that I was quite happy with, that I gigged around and you know, some nice songs and songs that were, you know, I fell in love. So that was great. So I wrote a song about that, and that was, you know, and then there's other things you see, you make observations and stuff like that, which is what Rise is kind of about. But there was songs I hadn't written before. There were content matter I'd never touched before, you know. So it was that kind of, again, it was another challenge. Can I write a non-conceited love song? Do you know what I mean? Can I try that? Can I see if that's gonna something I can do without baby baby I miss you? You know, it was something I wanted to see what I could do as a challenge, and you know, having those and then being able to go to, you know, Lee, who's been a mentor through the entire thing, and be able to go, look, yo, this is what I have. What do you think? Is this, you know, can I do this? Should I do this? And he would go, look, let me have a look at it. He'd come back with you know, my kind of ideas percolating and distilled down into what it is, and I can kind of put focus over that. And, you know, learning so much about the process of you know, the songwriting process, the production of it, you know, how things are done to get the finished product was something that, you know, as a challenge, I wanted to know more about. I was very much a person who's been in so many bands before where you can kind of divvy out who's going to do what. But, you know, if I want to write the song, I've kind of have an idea of, yeah, well, I kind of want the guitar to be a bit like this, and I kind of want the drums to be like this. And so when it came to that, I can get help with a producer and grow, I suppose, and see what I can do myself, and sort of push myself as far as I could myself, as opposed to with a band, you know. So that's kind of how it germinated, and now we're kind of, you know.
And is it just you and
KingWoes Court, which is brilliant.
Is it just you and Branock, or is there any additional musicians or that will be kind of long term in the project, or?
No, it's at the moment it's really just me working with Lee, and I'm looking to kind of get my the production feather in my cap as well, by kind of getting it set up myself and sort of trying to produce and write, you know, my own stuff, obviously with kind of guidance and help and stuff. But at the moment, you know, it's just me and himself, and I will be looking, as I said, when it comes to playing it live, I'll be looking to get some musicians in, some good players, and really get on stage again, man, because, you know, I think I was a pretty decent front man, so I reckon I can give people a good show, you know.
Absolutely, and it doesn't matter if you're, you know, one thing I will say about you is it doesn't matter if you're playing an acoustic guitar or you're banging a microphone off your head, you still fucking give 110%. You always have, and you always will.
Absolutely, bro. So I can't bang my top head anymore. I'll get a bit dumb, you know.
I know that. Concussions galore.
That was do you remember Apple Rocks? You remember Apple Rocks? Right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the first ones we had. One of the first rehearsals we had in there with a band. I was about 14, and I think we smoked a lot of crap hash and drank a lot of shite Gerald's bit and made some absolute noise. But that's when I started doing banging things into my head, and I thought I was punk. It just really hurt. I don't do it anymore. I'm too old, you know.
I don't think it'd go down well at a Branock show, anyway.
I do, you know, we'll see. We'll stick up the EP, and we're still working on stuff at the moment, so we're having an EP hopefully in March, April, and have that out. So
lovely.
Then we can start looking at some live gigs, you know.
Where did the name Branock come from?
Branock is actually his second name is David Walsh. Walsh is Branock, and I suppose anglicised it a bit and just made it BRNOCK, so it's easier to pronounce. When I start going international, man. But Branock, my actual name is one of my first tattoos, but it's my name in Irish. But in Irish, it's a bit. I've had it mispronounced many times. Brethnock, Branaach, all that. I was like, you know what? Let me just break this down a bit, you know. Because I've been looking a lot into, I suppose, my own history, family history, and sort of the country's history and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, I like, you know, the Gaelic aspect of it. So I was like, I'll try that. See, you know. I just don't think Dave Walsh just sounds a bit pedestrian, you know, for a solo act.
DJ Dave Walsh. What was I going to say to you there? Jesus, see, this is what happens when I don't do notes and I just freestyle it with some, you know.
Tip on it, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Tell me this lyrical stuff, lyrical content. What are you going with Branagh? Is there any kind of what are you dealing with on this kind of stuff? And also,
I suppose.
before I continue, give people an idea of like what Branagh is, because when we are going to let them hear the single at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
But just give them a little idea.
Yeah. I suppose it's a man who's been in the music industry's observation of what's been going on the past while. From with the most recent single, I suppose it is more of an observation. Lyrically, it's an observation as to how I've seen or how I've noticed a lot of musicians' interactions are happening online. A lot of things are happening. I don't mean online in the sense that people are engaging more online. I feel that there's a sort of a tract of hobbyists out there who online are musicians and online are bigger than what they are. But I've never seen them play a gig. I've never seen them do a show. I don't think they've ever done a show. I don't think they understand what live music is. So it was a bit of a poke at that, I suppose. And a lot of my lyrics, Branagh, is tongue-in-cheek and I suppose insular observation, but also how that pertains to the outside world. I mean, that's kind of, I don't want to be too serious. It's not going to have, I'm not going to take it up politics or blah, blah, blah. It is kind of, my own observations of this city we live in, this country we live in, and my own space and place in the world, I suppose. And I suppose just trying to shout it loud and shout it proud. I'm here and pay attention, I suppose. Because my parents never did, so I mean, look where I am now.
It's something. It's actually a great, as bad of a time as it is. I think it's a really interesting time to be able to gain some inspiration for lyrics. It really is,
Yeah.
know. So I mean, if you're making new music, this is the perfect time,
That's it, and I think it's fun. People have a lot of downtime now as well to read a bit more, and I've picked up, Plaston. So I read a lot of stuff when I was a teenager, and a lot of lyrics pertain to it. But getting older, reading a bit more, trying to engage a bit more of the brain, as to you've got the downtime now to pick up books and pick up things you might have looked at before and learning stuff that things that you would never have maybe had an interest in, you can find interesting. So I found myself reading books on anything from ancient Celtic history to contemporary fantasy, and trying to that all kind of comes into play, I think, when you're writing. No matter what thing you ingest, I think it always is a way of finding itself back out in the art. Like no matter what an opinion you take in a film, a computer game, anything can come in. That when you start putting pen to paper, I find that will kind of rise to the top, and that maybe observation you made will find itself into a lyric or a verse, and from there then I'll try and get a germ of idea, and with that germ of an idea then sort of try and mark out within 3 or 4 verses what I want to say. So that hasn't really changed with Branagh. I suppose the content might just have changed a bit more. It's not as visceral, we'll say. We know Jack was a bit in your face. I'd spit at you and then tell you what the story was.
Yeah, I love it.
Which went down a storm. Just not the person's fell
on. Tell me, we're gonna wrap it up in a few minutes. Tell me some of your favorite albums, and they don't not in any order, but now albums, not songs. Albums that kind of brought you to the dance, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. I played top 5 albums since I was 16, but they're never the same album since I was 16,
What, today?
Yeah, I think today, when it comes to contemporary, I would say Billy Bragg, Spy vs. Spy would be probably one of my all-time favorites.
Okay.
Then if we were looking at, say, I've got a whole. I'm like going through Spotify and my brain going, how am I going to figure this out? But yeah, I mean, the Smiths, The Queen is Dead, will always be a favourite of mine.
Okay.
Pantera Far Beyond Driven was an album that changed my life. Hit Destroyer, Terrifier as well was another game changer. What else? Downs First. And the one that probably got me most with Slayer was Undisputed Attitude. So, wouldn't be my favourite Slayer album, but it's the most that made me go, ooh, what is happening here? And it also opened up a lot of, that album opened up a lot of crust punk, a lot of kind of older, DB bands and stuff like that, and I got big into crust of late. And that was kind of going back and seeing bands who maybe covered, contemporary to the Slayer songs and finding out a lot about them. And I'd say probably one of them, to be honest, Warm Rot's Dirge, I'd say it was probably something that really made me sit up and go, I'd heard a lot of grindcore from Peak Destroyers and that, but that was one that made me go, oh, okay, these boys took the day. And that I'd say Isis Panopticon would be probably ones that really kind of made me. They're albums that made me kind of stop and take note for a sec and be like, what's all this about? What's going on here? I'll digest and devour as many albums when it comes to sort of metal, from all facets of it. But they were ones that, I suppose, a younger man had kind of given me pause,
It's a nice mixed bag you got there,
Yeah, and that's it. Just from and that's obviously them. Them influences vary from my father to my friends to ex-girlfriends, all that kind of stuff. It all comes into kind of to your own kind of journey and your the reason you do it.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll unleash this absolutely class new fucking single on everybody.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and tap on Instagram and Facebook as well. Give us a like. We're going to be giving it sucks going forward.
Absolutely. This is called Rise, and this is the one we were talking about earlier on. So, Dave, A.K.A. Branock, thank you so much for coming on to the court today.
It's been a pleasure to be in court, brother. That's the first time I've only said that, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm the court of goodness, so.
There you go, yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an honour being on here. Thank you very much.
And look, we'll do something, as I said, in the future. We will actually get something.
Absolutely.
If TC is going to jump onto it, then that's up to him,
Get Kirby, get him on board, get him out, yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, thanks a million, folks. We'll see you next week, and KingWoes Court. Yeah, man. KingWoes Court is done.
Thank you.
And that's it.
You still there?
Oh, man.